I've been looking forward to making this episode since I started my channel. In fact, I named my channel with this exact kind of trip in mind, Alaska Cabin Adventures. Today we are heading deep into the Alaska wilderness in search of a cabin. But it's not just any cabin. It's a cabin that's notorious for bad luck and disaster. Tim and I have been out here other times, and we've been hit with massive snowstorms, broken down snow machines, epic adventures that nearly cost us our life. So, naturally, we like to go back and see if we can't get ourselves into some more trouble. This is a story of the Nugget Creek Cabin. I'm sure many of you recognized him from his videos on Truckhouse Life. Him and I have been old buddies, and we've been adventuring across the state since 2008. Tim came out to the cabin last night, had a couple beers, and we made a trip plan and packed up our bags. We got up at 5 a.m., and by 6 o'clock we were on the road. The first leg of our journey is one of the most dangerous. It's a 300-mile drive across Alaska on really icy, steep roads that wind along cliff edges, with all sorts of moose and other wildlife in the road, falling rocks and frost heaves. Not only that, but we're hundreds and hundreds of miles away from the nearest town that would have some kind of service for a vehicle. If something broke down or went wrong, it'd be up to us to fix it and get back on the road. So far, things have been going pretty smooth. The road wasn't too bad, and we were making good time. And then it happened. One of the most terrifying moments of my whole life.
So we're going down the first steep hill. We've been down just about the whole drive. Coming around a corner, solid ice, and right around the corner, there's a front end loader. Basically like a tractor with a big bucket in the front blocking the entire road, like a DOT vehicle, scooping snow out. And we would have hit him, but I hit the horn. And you could see him look up and stare at us, and he got the thing out of the way in time while we're sliding towards him. It's pretty close, though.
Coming around a steep, icy corner with no chance of stopping, only to see a gigantic piece of steel blocking the entire road, was the last thing I thought we had to worry about. But anyway, after narrowly avoiding disaster, we continued on and started the next leg of the journey, the McCarthy Road. For those who have never seen it, it's hard to imagine just how desolate and remote this part of the state is. The McCarthy Road follows the old railroad bed that was put in the early 1900s to pull copper ore out of the mountains in Kennecott. It was 13 degrees Fahrenheit when we left the cabin, but the interior of Alaska can often be much colder. By the time we got to the trailhead, it was about -5 degrees Fahrenheit, which can lead to problems with getting your snow machine started.
Yeah, barely.
I might seem overly excited about getting my snow machine started here, but it's not without good reason. The last time we came out to this cabin, we were left stranded. It was -25 degrees Fahrenheit, and my snow machine refused to start. We spent the entire day taking turns trying to get it to pull over, put a sleeping bag over the top of it, and even lit a Coleman stove underneath it to try to get some heat up into the engine block. With no way of calling for help, we decided it was going to be up to us to get out of there. The problem was that there was 4 of us, me and Tim and our respective girlfriends, Norman, and a broke-down snow machine, and we only had 2 working snow machines to get out. With the dead sled in tow, we packed up all of our gear onto the snow machines and headed off down the 17-mile trail into one of the darkest and coldest nights I've ever experienced. But the top-heavy and uneven loads caused the snow machines to tip over frequently, sending us and all of our gear into the snow and into the trees. It was so cold that the machines that were working started to have problems as well. After a couple miles, the headlights on Tim's snow machine stopped working. We turned on our headlamps, but even those were having a hard time working in the cold, and after a couple more miles, they faded to black. We got into a rhythm of making it down the trail a few hundred yards, tipping over, packing up all of our stuff, getting back on the machine, and making it a couple more 100 yards down the trail. But the problems just kept coming. First, the dog leash that we were using to tow the dead snow machine broke, leaving us with only a thin piece of parachute cord to tow the other snow machine. Then, with the dim lights that we had left, we saw two glowing eyes standing on the trail in front of us. We realized that it was a 50-pound lynx caught in one of the trapper's steel traps that had been set along the trail. Once we realized that there's traps actually on the trail, we no longer could let our dog Norman run alongside of us. We had to pick him up and carry him on the snow machines as well, which caused us to tip over even more frequently. Finally, we came to a hill that was too icy and steep to tow the other snow machine up. It seemed like all hope was lost and we were going to have to abandon the snow machine and just walk our way out. But lucky for us, Tim had a couple of tricks up his sleeve. He had just enough cord to rig up what's called a Z-drag, which is essentially a mechanical advantage pulley system that helped us get the sled up the hill. With all of us pushing behind it and him pulling, we were able to inch the sled up and over the hill. After 7 grueling hours, we finally made it back to the truck, and not a moment too soon. We were all suffering from exhaustion, and bits of frostbite were starting to show up on our exposed flesh. That night while we were on the trail, I looked up at the stars and thought to myself, if we make it out of this alive, I think my adventuring days are going to be done. But for reasons I still don't understand, it had the opposite effect. It lit a fire in me, a fire for more adventure, and I was hungry to get back into the wilderness. By the time we got all packed up and ready to go, the sun was starting to set and the darkness coming on. We had 17 miles to ride on our snow machines to get back to the cabin. We figured if everything went smooth, we could get there just before dark. Enough time to get the fire going and get settled in. But this is Nugget Creek, where nothing ever goes according to plan. It didn't take long to realize that there's something different about the trail this year. In the past, it's always been well maintained by a trapper who traps lynx, hare, and other animals along the line. On multiple occasions, we've come upon his traps with live lynx and other animals in them, which I'll admit is not my favorite thing to see. But this year, the trapper had not been out at all. In fact, the only tracks that were out here were the many thousands of animal tracks crisscrossing the trail, going up and down the forest line. Being the first ones out here for the entire winter was a cool feeling, but it also came with a host of other obstacles that we were not anticipating.
So this is the creek that Matt got stuck in last time, or we just had a hard time getting across this. Nice.
We were surprised to find almost no snow out here, compared to my cabin, which had close to 3 or 4 feet. Picking through the rocks and open water wasn't too big of a problem, but it was as we got into the dense spruce forest that the real challenge occurred. With the trapper not running his line this year, there was no one to come through and clear out the downed trees, which became more frequent and bigger as the trail went on.
Trees down. Well, at this point, I'm starting to question whether or not we're going to make it. There are so many downed trees, and they're just getting bigger. one.
I think that's a chainsaw.
I wonder if we can move it. We both just try to pull it over to the side.
Okay. This is a big one. Finally, we came to a tree that was impassable. There was no way to go in the woods around it due to the steep trenches on either side of the trail. This time we came prepared. I pulled out my Stihl chainsaw and tried to get it fired up.
Come on, baby.
If you've seen my other videos, you know that this Stihl chainsaw did a lot of work this summer. I cut multiple cords of wood and have relied on this saw for everything for the last 10 years. But in true Nugget Creek fashion, tonight would be the night that my trusty Stihl would finally give me a problem.
Come on.
Give me some gas at the same time. That might be enough to get around almost.
Let's see if we can move it.
Yeah. Is it cut all the way free?
Yeah. Here,
I'd just be frozen. I bet the branches are frozen to the
the
ground.
branches are just holding us in.
Yep. Breaking them off.
Hold on, it's getting hung up on this one.
Out of the way. All right, go for it now.
There we go.
Grab a branch so we
I'm
can
gonna get these limbs from a little farther out.
watch out for this limb. It's about to break.
Okay. Okay. Yep.
One, two. Yeah.
Okay.
Woo.
Ground.
Nice.
Nugget Creek.
All right, let's get back on the trail. Immediately after getting the tree cut and getting the saw put away and back on the trail, we ran into yet another blowdown.
Go around back here.
Yeah. But instead of trying to cut this tree, we decided we would try to work our way around it through the thick brush. Well, this is Nugget Creek right here, and all the creeks so far have been wide open. This is the biggest of all of them, so hopefully it's passable. And the cabin's right on the other side, so we'll see what we can do, eh? Oh yeah! Oh, yeah! Woohoo! Woohoo!
Look at all that firewood too.
Oh, yeah!
We're gonna split it all, but
All right.
well, in other news, a tree got me pretty good. Like literally losing all my down.
Pretty bad.
Yep. It's a ripper.
That was alright, Timmy.
It was good. By that I mean it was wasn't that good at all.
All right.
Nice.
We made it. Nugget Creek.
It's all clean. Look at that. Someone stuck the kindling over there.
It's all that water coming out your pack, bro.
Ah, it's you. Oh.
That entire gallon jug.
Damn. Yep. All in the bag. Wish everyone would stop the gallon like that. Sweet. Yes.
I can't tell you how good it felt to sit around the warm fire with some hot food, knowing that we had made it. But tomorrow would bring a new set of adventures. We were going to try to ride our snow machines up onto the Tusculana Glacier and make it to the base of Mount Blackburn, one of the tallest and most rugged peaks in North America. So after a couple of card games and a couple of beers, we decided to call it an early night and get some rest.
That's an uncomfortable bit.
What's that? What's that water?
Yeah.
What kind of coffee we got?
Starbucks Instant Pike's Place.
Oh, yeah.
Woke up this morning and our other gallon of water is totally shot.
Yeah, what's
I
going
don't
on?
know what's going on there. It's like inverted.
Oh, it's sitting right beside it.
No, it was on the ground over here in this huge puddle of water.
Is it on the ground?
Yep.
We started the day slow with coffee and breakfast. Instant coffee and dehydrated biscuits and gravy is not exactly what you call delicious. But when you're out in the middle of nowhere at a cabin where it's -5 degrees and that's all you got, it actually is pretty dang good.
Whoa.
Educate us on the cabin.
For people who come back to this cabin, most always ask who built it. This area has always belonged to Mother Nature and the few Atna Indians who used it. As early as 1881 to 1882, there were prospectors poking up the Copper River, but it was James McCarthy, among others, who explored and prospected the tributaries and eventually found the copper deposits that led to the copper boom of this region. It was very difficult mining conditions due to the winters and weather, and also logistics of equipment and horses to transport goods. Mostly they used sleds. I found several in the area. When the ground was frozen and the snow covered by 1902 to 1906, there were several mines located and working in the Tusculana River. In 1917, the road was completed from Strelana Creek to Nugget Creek, and a telephone line installed alongside. Wow.
There's a telephone line out
Yeah.
here? No way. All the way to this cabin.
Yep.
I didn't see any poles.
Yeah, well, it's long gone. That was in 1917. Nugget Creek gets its name from a very large copper nugget, several hundred pounds, that was found a couple miles up from this cabin, now believed to have been carried there by glaciers.
200 pounds?
200-pound nugget.
It's like the size of
copper
a chair.
nugget, just sitting in the creek.
I stand corrected here. It turns out that the nugget they found wasn't several hundred pounds. In fact, it was several thousand pounds. Anyway, back to the story.
There are a few old trails in this area that the miners use and are established on old maps. First, of course, is the trail road you came in from. Next came the big copper bust in the Depression years, and this area was again back in the hands of Mother Nature. Along came a man by the name of Tom Byron, who in 1966 built this cabin here on Nugget Creek. This is a nice cabin, and we ask that you use it and take care of it like it was your own. It is, sort of. Signed, J.E.C. Wow, so 1966 this was built.
Yep.
Well, I thought I'd take a second to show you guys around the cabin. It's not super big, but it's actually quite a bit bigger than the bunkhouse I just built, and big enough for a wood stove and all the bunks and whatnot. But yeah, anyway, I'd say probably 14 by 14, but it's just a guess.
This is another thing I got wrong. When I got home, I did some reading and found out the cabin's not 14 by 14, but in fact it was 15 by 19, which I find really hard to believe given that my cabin is a 16 by 20. It seems so much smaller than my cabin, but I don't know. Next time we'll bring a tape measure out and see if it's true.
Anyway, I got a little kitchen area over here, and it actually has a brand new propane cook stove that somebody left out here recently. We brought all of our own cook stuff just in case, but it's nice to have it out here, something a little bit more substantial. We just have like little jet boils. And yeah, some shelves for keeping stuff on, and some good emergency stuff like baling wire, like extra metal. There's some tool kits under here. Odds and ends, saws, screwdrivers, wrenches, things like that. The wood stove is actually pretty awesome. It drafts really well, and when we got it started last night, it just fired right up. It takes a while for it to get warm because it's really well insulated, but got the cabin hot in about, I don't know, hour and a half to 2 hours probably before it was like, I don't know, probably 50 degrees in here, which is comfortable. And the floor is not insulated on this cabin, so it stays really chilly down below and really warm up top. Like even when the stove's cranking pretty good, it definitely gets pretty chilly down low. So I took the bottom bunk over here because I like to sleep cold, and definitely stays a lot cooler down here than it does just up there. So got a little dining area over here, and it's got all these cool log books and history of the cabin, which is amazing. And then there's like a shelf up here with cards and poker chips and odds and ends like that. Tons of nails and drying racks. Tim's bag that had the water in it exploded on the drive-in, and he soaked all of his gear with a whole entire gallon of water. So he's hanging all of his stuff up to dry. And yeah. Super rustic, super simple. This is kind of the definition of a trapper's cabin. My only complaint about this cabin is that it's really dark. There's not very many windows. Out in this country, bears are going to break in and rip stuff apart. In fact, there's an entry about a porcupine that had eaten through a section of the wall, and they had to repair it with new logs. You'll notice on the windows there's steel bars outside. The door is made out of steel. Any entry point is going to be covered with metal. The only window that's not covered with metal is this little guy here, and that's actually a glass bottle that somebody used as a window. So that's kind of a cool little feature of this cabin. But Tim brought a EcoFlow little mini power station, which feels weird to have out here, but the reality is we're filming and we need to charge up all of our batteries for the GoPros and cameras and drones. So we brought that guy just to keep the cameras running, and that's really all we're using it for. location of this cabin. We're nestled right in the Wrangell Mountains at the base of a massive glacier. And that glacier takes you up to Mount Blackburn.
I think it's one of the 15th highest mountains in North America. Like, it's just one of the top, it's the top 17.
To be exact, Mount Blackburn is actually the 5th highest peak in the United States and the 12th highest peak in North America, standing at 16,286 feet, which is 4,964 meters.
Just an absolutely massive mountain. Yeah. And unfortunately, it's snowing today, and it's supposed to snow a lot. Yeah. So I'm not sure we're going to get very many good looks at it, but
maybe we'll get lucky.
Maybe we'll get lucky. Yeah.
Get a sucker hole.
Yeah. You want to get rolling?
Let's do it.
Anyway, yeah. Nugget Creek Cabin. And we're going to get loaded up and head out for an adventure. We're going to try to get up onto the glacier, but we'll see. There's almost no snow out here. Maybe half a foot, 8 inches, really.
We headed out from the cabin down a small trail that leads to an old airstrip. It became immediately apparent that this was going to be difficult riding. There was so little snow cover that we were hitting our skis on rocks and stumps and different things like that. One of the things I love about this area is the old relics that still remain, like this truck. Who brought this truck here? How long ago did it last run? And why did they leave it here? Our plan was to work our way down the airstrip and get on the Tusculana River. From there, we were going to hang a left and follow the river all the way up to the toe of the glacier and try to find a place to get up onto the glacier so we could ride to the base of Mount Blackburn. But with the lack of snow, it was going to be impossible to ride the river. There was just too many rocks. We tried picking our way through the forest, but it was too dense and overgrown, and again, too many rocks and downed trees to be catching skis on. Finally, we found the remnants of an old miner's trail. How far would it go? Would it get us to where we wanted to be? After a few miles, the trail started to peter out, and we were back in the same situation we started in. But then we noticed something spectacular. There was a break in the clouds. We got our sucker hole, and we got our view of Mount Blackburn. Getting a view of the mountain was spectacular, but it was also somewhat disappointing. We could see that there was not enough snow to be able to travel across the glacier. With our main objective out of reach, it was time for Plan B.
I don't know. Give it a go. That shit 15 miles an hour. I think you'll go right up it if you go fast, though.
Yeah, well, from here we'll just walk to the top of the ridge and see if we can't get a fire going.
There's something primal about starting a fire in the woods. It just feels good. I think it taps into an ancient instinct, an instinct to survive. It's the same thing that makes it so thrilling when a fish hits your line, even if you're planning on letting it go. And while our ancestors probably weren't eating jalapeno cheddar dogs from Safeway, They were sitting around a fire, cooking meat, telling stories.
You ever had one of these explode?
Oh yeah.
The hot cheese. We're sitting at a fire in Fairbanks and someone left like a full beer can, like kind of in the fire. Johnny Lungs is playing his uke right next to the fire and it exploded with like boiling hot beer. The whole can just blew up.
It was clear that any chance of big exploration was going to have to wait for another time, so instead we put our efforts into something we could do. I can't tell you how grateful and fortunate we were to come out to the cabin and find that it had firewood ready to go. That is not a guarantee out here. No one comes out here and stocks us with firewood. So all the firewood you see is firewood that other people have cut and left for the next people to come. So we decided we'd pass on the good deed and make sure that the cabin is well stocked by the time we left.
Crappy axe. Piece of garbage.
The only problem was the maul they had out there was duller than a socket wrench. And the round wood that was left was still pretty wet and very hard to split.
If you guys haven't seen this guy split wood too, he splits wood all the time. That is a pretty bad maul. There we go.
We decided our efforts would be better spent finding a dead tree to cut down and buck up for the cabin.
Let's see him hit all those rocks.
This is pretty dead looking right there.
It's close. It's still a little green.
Yeah, a little green. Stuck? No way.
Yes.
These two trees are dead and not too many branches on them, so I think we'll go ahead and take this one on the right. See where the lean's at on it. It's leaning that way.
Yeah.
Chain's locked up.
Oh yeah?
Yep.
Nothing jamming in there, is it?
I think it just iced up in there.
This is is a good thing to do too whenever you show up to cabins. Usually there's some firewood when you get there and you don't want to just use it all and go. It's good to restock. That way the next people that come along are, you know, just as lucky as you were. That's what we're doing. Just for the record, this is not a live tree. This is a dead spruce beetle kill tree. Spruce beetles are a big problem up here in Alaska. They're getting really bad. They're killing a lot of trees up here lately. And the trees are still standing even though they're dead. And if you look really closely at the trunk, you'll see all these little holes from the beetles where they're penetrating it and killing it. Yep.
All right.
Got some wood.
Pretty good sled pull.
Yeah. Not at all.
All right. Steak on a stick.
Oh yeah? Yep. Just sear it?
Yep.
Never had steak in a stick.
Steve showed it to me.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, Grizzletown, USA. Well, what's nice about steak on the stick is that you don't actually have to keep it medium rare because it burns so hot that it renders all the fat in the steak, so it's all edible and buttery instead of like big chewy pieces. Because it's just like melting, so it renders it down.
Steak and a stick.
Oh! There it goes.
Oh.
Did you drop it?
No, just the stick just broke.
Oh.
Like right there, just burned through. That's pretty good.
Told you.
That'll do.
Oh. So juicy.
Next. My meat's my meat's shouldn't be eating like a salad or something.
That night, me and Tim sat around the fire and talked about old times. We talked about all the adventures that we had, and we laughed about our first trip out to Nugget Creek. 15 years ago, we didn't have snow machines, and Tim thought it'd be a good idea if we saddled up on his Honda four-wheeler and tried to ride the trail out here in the middle of the winter. Except that year, the snow was over 3 feet deep. Needless to say, it was nothing short of a disaster. We got stuck probably 15 to 20 times coming in and had to winch out every single time, leaving gigantic bomb holes all over the trapper's trail. We ended up making it to the cabin, but the following day we woke up to 24 new inches of snow and had to ride the four-wheeler back in the new snow and winch another 20 to 30 times to get back to the truck. I barely knew the guy when we set off for the trip, but by the end of it we were fast friends. People think Timmy's crazy for these wild and unconventional ideas, but it's also why people love him. Tim's been a great mentor to me and showed me around much of the state of Alaska. He took me four-wheeling, whitewater rafting, pack rafting, snow machining, and lots of other things that I'd never done before. So after 15 years of adventures and misadventures alike, it was good to be back where it all started, sitting around the fire, sipping whiskey and giving each other a hard time. I'm grateful for our friendship, and even more grateful that we've lived to tell the tale. As the fire started to die down, the snow started to pick up. We knew there was a big storm in the forecast, but we didn't know how big. Would we wake up and find that another 2 feet of snow had fallen on us? I definitely slept a little less easy thinking about how much snow we were going to wake up to. We still had a long journey to get home the next day, and after all, this was Nugget Creek.
All right, let's see how much snow fell.
The next morning, we woke up to find that only 5 to 6 inches of snow had fallen. I was relieved and disappointed all at the same time.
Let's see, black.
One of the best parts about the Nugget Creek cabin is the incredible logbook. People have the most insane stories from being out here, whether it's hunting or mountain climbing or just trying to survive. Tim did the honors of entering our Nugget Creek story into the logbook, and we started getting ourselves packed up.
We're at.
Is that?
Here we go.
A beer. It's a pretty burly piece of metal, whatever that is.
The ride out was actually much quicker than the ride in. The few inches of snow that fell helped improve the trail, and all the big downed trees we'd either cut out of the way or established a workaround.
Adding that track to it. Here it is.
It almost didn't feel right, being back at the truck, having avoided any major disasters, but I'll admit I was relieved. After all, we still had a 300-mile drive to get back to my cabin. For those of you who are still watching, I want to give a heartfelt thanks for your viewership. And if you guys haven't already checked out Tim's channel, Truckhouse Life, please do. I'm sure he'll be making his own videos on this trip, and if you go back far enough, you can even find the video he made where we got stranded here 3 years ago. Again, thanks for watching, and I'll see you on the next episode of Alaska Cabin Adventures.